All right, let's jump right in. We're going to break down one of the biggest shifts happening in business right now, the total reinvention of supply chain strategy. Now, we're going to stick specifically to the source material here to really get a handle on how we went from a world obsessed with cost to one that's all about certainty. And honestly, if you're a professional trying to navigate today's pretty volatile markets, you're going to want to pay attention to this.
Okay, so here's how we're going to walk through this. First, we'll cover the old rulebook, how things used to be. Then, we'll hit the breaking point that changed everything. After that, we'll talk about the new strategy, resilience. We'll look at 4 key changes that are happening, and we'll wrap up by talking about what it really means to optimize for certainty. Let's get started.
All right, first up, the old rulebook, or what I like to call the age of efficiency. This was the core philosophy that honestly built the global economy as we knew it. For a long, long time, the logic was super simple, really powerful, and it worked. It worked incredibly well. And this right here, this slide gets right to the heart of the entire shift we're talking about. See, the old goal, the whole game, was about cost efficiency. The number one question was always, how do we make this cheaper? How do we shave off another penny? But now, the new goal is certainty. The question is totally changed to, how do we make sure this actually shows up?
For decades, it was simple. The best supply chain was the cheapest supply chain, period. And honestly, it made perfect sense at the time. Companies built these huge, sprawling global networks, chasing the lowest prices for materials and labor wherever they could find them. It was all built on the idea that the world was pretty stable, pretty predictable, and for a long, long time, it worked like a charm.
So if everything was running so smoothly, what happened? Well, that brings us to our next section, the breaking point. This is where a system that was built for stability got put under some serious stress, and its hidden cracks started to show. Big time. And it all felt like it happened overnight. Suddenly you had pandemics halting factories, just stopping them in their tracks. That was the first link in the chain just snapped. Next thing you know, ports closed down. So even if you could get something made, there was nowhere for it to go. The entire logistics network just seized up. And then came the money hit. Shipping costs didn't just go up, they went through the roof. They multiplied. All those pennies saved over the years, gone. Wiped out by the insane cost to just move a box from A to B.
And here's the lesson that everybody learned, the hard way. It turns out a supply chain that's optimized only for cost can fail completely, and I mean completely, under stress. It wasn't a system that could bend, it was a system that could break. And boy, did it break.
But, out of the ashes of that crisis, a whole new strategy started to take shape, a new mindset. It wasn't about finding the absolute cheapest option anymore. No, it was about building something that could actually last, something that could endure. It was all about resilience.
So what are we really talking about when we say resilience? Well, it's the ability to continue operating even when things go sideways, when conditions change unexpectedly. I mean, think of it this way. It's the ability to take a punch, whether that's a pandemic, a blocked canal, whatever, and just keep on going.
Okay, so that sounds great, right? Be resilient. But how do you actually do it? Well, it's not just some buzzword. It's a real playbook with concrete actions. So let's get into the 4 key changes that companies are making right now.
Okay, let's break these down because this is really the how-to part. First up, multi-sourcing. This is basically the don't put all your eggs in one basket rule. Instead of relying on one single supplier for something critical, you have 2, maybe 3. Yeah, it might cost a little more, but if one of them goes down, you're not dead in the water. Second, nearshoring and friendshoring. This is all about bringing production closer to you, either physically closer to your markets or at least to countries that are politically stable and friendly. Again, maybe labor costs more, but you slash your shipping times and you're not waking up to a headline that could shut down your entire supply line. Then there's flexible contracting. The old way was to lock in a price for a fixed number of units. The new way? Build contracts that expect things to get weird. You have clauses for volume ranges, for surge capacity. It's about building agility right into the legal paperwork. And finally, and this one is so important, tier visibility. This means you don't just know your supplier, you know your supplier's supplier, and their supplier. Why? Because the thing that shuts you down might be a tiny 50-cent chip made by a company you've never even heard of, 3 levels down the chain. You've got to map out those hidden risks.
So when you take all these changes together, the multiple suppliers, the shorter shipping routes, the agile contracts, they're all pointing in one direction. They're all about achieving one ultimate goal, optimizing for certainty. This is the new North Star.
And this really brings it all home. We've completely redefined what success even means.
The old definition of success? Getting the lowest possible purchase price. That was it. But the new definition of success is simply uninterrupted business operations. It's about keeping the lights on, keeping the factory running, and keeping your promises to customers.
I mean, just think about that for a second. Today, success means uninterrupted business operations. The whole mindset has shifted from worrying about the cost of goods to worrying about the cost of failure. And let's be real, the cost of failure, we're talking lost sales, a trashed reputation, paying insane prices for last-minute emergency shipping. That cost is almost always way, way higher than what you'd pay for a little more certainty up front.
So this is what the modern supply chain looks like. It's a balancing act. It's not just about cost anymore. It's this three-way tug of war between cost, speed, and the new champion in the ring, reliability. In a world this unpredictable, just knowing for sure that your stuff is going to show up, that has become just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the price tag on it.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. This whole shift from chasing low costs to demanding certainty isn't just some passing trend. It's a deep, fundamental change in the logic of how business gets done. So the question I want to leave you with is, for your own world, for your industry, how do you put a price on certainty, and is that price worth the cost? Something to think about.